60 facts about the Beatles in under 10 minutes. The Beatles are widely regarded as one of the most influential groups to emerge from the famous music scene of the 20th century. While everyone is familiar with their hits, there are some things about the Beatles members, also known as the Fab Four, that you might not know. Here are our top 60 facts about the Beatles in under 10 minutes. Number 1. Ringo Starr wasn't the original drummer for the band. He replaced Pete Best in 1962. Number 2. Beatles fans claim that Pete Best was only kicked out because the other Beatles were jealous of his looks and popularity. Number 3. John Lennon found out he was dyslexic late in his life. Number 4. Lennon used to say that he would prefer to be part of Monty Python than the Beatles. Number 5. The Beatles group was only a band for 8 years, from 1962 to 1970, and were often called the Fab Four. Number 6. None of the Fab Four ever learned to read sheet music. Number 7. The Beatles were originally rejected by Decca Records, and their manager, Brian Epstein, was told that guitar groups weren't popular anymore. Thankfully, EMI later took a chance on the Beatles and signed them. Number 8. Some fans were so outraged when Best was kicked out from the band that they got violent. George Harrison was even punched in the eye by one of the fans. Number 9. The Beatles made a big impact in encouraging women's liberation, gay liberation, anti-war, and environmentalist movements. Number 10. On February 9, 1964, the Beatles made an appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show at Studio 50 in New York. This was the highest viewed episode of The Ed Sullivan Show ever, with 73 million people tuning in to watch them perform, and it is still one of the most viewed shows in the history of television in the United States. Number 11. John Lennon was often called the clever one of the Fab Four. Number 12. John Lennon was a published poet. John first started writing in a magazine called The Daily How, which was his creation. Number 13. The first band Lennon ever played in was the Quarrymen. They started in the school days in Liverpool and played skiffle music and later evolved into what we know as the Beatles. Number 14. In 1966, John caused a lot of controversy in the Bible Belt of America after saying that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. People even started mass burning the Beatles albums because of this. Number 15. Lennon was also in a lot of other bands, including the Silver Beatles, Johnny and the Moondogs, the Plastic Ono Band, and the Dirty Mac. Number 16. Even though John Lennon had poor eyesight, he was initially too embarrassed to wear glasses and usually wore contacts. Number 17. John Lennon was very inspired by Elvis Presley as a young adult. He styled his clothes and hair on the King of Rock, wearing leather jackets and smearing his hair back with gel. But Lennon was disappointed when he met the legend himself, saying that Elvis was very disinterested and disengaged. Number 18. Lennon divorced his first wife, Cynthia Lennon, in 1968, leaving her for Japanese artist Yoko Ono after 6 years of marriage and having a child together. Number 19. On December 8, 1980, John Lennon died in New York after a crazed fan shot him 4 times. The attack took his life when he was just 40 years old. Number 20. There is a John Lennon memorial in Central Park, New York, called Strawberry Fields, with a mosaic reading, Imagine. Number 21. After leaving the band, Lennon became an anti-war activist and released his hits, including the classic Imagine. Number 22. In 1975, Lennon gave up his music so he could spend more time with Yoko and his son, Sean. Number 23. There is a statue of John Lennon in Penny Lane in Liverpool. Number 24. McCartney earned the title of the cute one of the Beatles. Number 25. In his first ever solo for the Quarrymen in 1957, Paul's voice kept cracking. Number 26. Paul McCartney is also a successful painter and has painted over 70 works that are in Liverpool's Walker Art Gallery. Number 27. The trumpet was the first instrument McCartney ever learned to play. His father gave him one for his 14th birthday, but he eventually gave it up to pursue guitar. Number 28. McCartney was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 1997 for his contributions to music. Number 29. McCartney was left-handed and always struggled to play guitar, thinking it was only possible to play it right-handed. It wasn't until he came across the Slim Whitman poster where he was playing the guitar with his left hand that Paul finally restrung his guitar so he could play more easily. Number 30. Ringo was known as the funny one of the Beatles and was arguably the most lovable. Number 31. Ringo Starr has never had pizza or curry because he is allergic to onions, garlic, and spices, but that didn't stop him from doing a Pizza Hut commercial in 1995. Number 32. In 1989, McCartney broke the record for the largest paid audience in history with 350,000 people attending his solo concert in Brazil. Number 33. After performing at a charity concert raising funds for 9/11, the New York Police Department made Paul an honorary detective. Number 34. Ringo was left-handed, but like most left-handed children born in this time, he was taught to be right-handed. Adapting to a right-handed drumming equipment helped him give this unique drumming style. Number 35. Starr wasn't just a good drummer, he could also sing. He sang the lead vocals for Yellow Submarine, which was the only song where Starr was the lead singer that reached number 1 in the charts. Number 36. If it had been up to John, George wouldn't have been part of the Beatles. Lennon thought he was far too young, being only 15 at his audition in 1958, but his incredible guitar skills changed his mind. Number 37. Harrison could play 26 instruments. This included the guitar, ukulele, flute, tamper drums, violin, xylophone, tabla, Indian sitars, piano, darbuka, and harmonica. Number 38. George was the first Beatle to perform in the United States. He was visiting his sister, who was married to an American and living in Illinois, when he performed with the Four Vests in El Dorado. Number 39. In 1971, Harrison arranged a charity concert in Madison Square Garden after hearing about the struggles of the Bangladesh refugees dealing with the war, the aftermath of a cyclone, and who were now facing starvation. Number 40. Harrison wrote the song Here Comes the Sun. His other popular songs include Taxman and Something. Number 41. In 2001, Harrison sadly passed away from lung cancer at 58 years old. He was cremated and his ashes were scattered in the Ganges and Yamuna rivers in India. Number 42. The Beatles' album Please Please Me was their first ever album, released in 1963. Number 43. The first songs the Beatles ever recorded was Love Me Do in 1963. Number 44. While many of the Beatles songs were written by both Lennon and McCartney, in the end John had written 61 songs and Paul had wrote 43, but they had an agreement that meant all were still attributed to Lennon-McCartney. Number 45. Let It Be was recorded during the peak of the Beatles' troubled times. A month after its 1970 release, McCartney announced the band had broken up. Number 46. Hey Jude was a song written by McCartney for Julian Lennon, John, and Cynthia's 5-year-old son. The lyrics were originally Hey Jules, and it was written as a song of hope. Number 47. If I Needed Someone was the only song wrote by Harrison that was performed live by the Beatles. Number 48. The shortest song made by the Beatles was Her Majesty, at just 23 seconds long. Number 49. There is a real Eleanor Rigby grave at a church in Liverpool, but Paul wasn't aware of this when he wrote the classic Eleanor Rigby. Number 50. The Beatles' song Yesterday is believed to be the most covered song in history. Number 51. The BBC banned the song I Am a Walrus because it mentioned knickers. Another song the BBC banned was Come Together, as it mentioned the Coca-Cola brand, making this another hit that British people weren't allowed to enjoy for some time. Number 52. It would only take about 1.5 days to listen to every song wrote by the Beatles. You could spend a day in your life listening to A Day in the Life. That wouldn't be the worst way to spend your day. Number 53. The Ballad of John and Yoko was written about the couples running with the law in international countries. It was another song banned by the BBC for some time. Number 54. The name of the Beatles was inspired by Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Number 55. Ringo Starr claims he was the first person to ever take a selfie. Number 56. Lennon-McCartney had been attributed to 200 of the Beatles songs. Number 57. McCartney first met John Lennon at a Liverpool church in 1957 when he was just 15 while John was performing in his band, the Quarrymen. Number 58. In his first ever solo for the Quarrymen, Paul's voice kept cracking. Number 59. Ringo Starr was once arrested for stealing a car radio. Number 60. After marrying Yoko in 1969, John changed his middle name to Ono. So those were 60 facts about the Beatles in under 10 minutes. What are your thoughts on today's video? Please let us know in the comment section below. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our incredible videos. Keep an eye out for the next video. Bye for now.